So, I want to talk about Legacies for a minute and why is that show such a fucking mess? And specifically, how do we go from the Vampire Diaries, which was an amazing show, to the originals, was just even a better show, to Legacies? How did that happen? And I was not there thinking about it for a while because I've still watched Legacies, even though that show is absolutely fucking terrible. And as I was sitting there watching clips and stuff like that, like the originals and stuff like that, and I saw some people do videos on it, I was like, you know what? Let me just kind of just throw my opinion out there about just the shows in general and how did this show turn into such dog shit? And there's a couple of reasons. One, it has a lot to do with the CW in itself. Um, Making this whole thing, this whole SJW, representation and, all inclusiveness. And listen, I don't find anything wrong with that. But when you miss the core values of what made the show, or what made it so great for the fans to sit there and watch, like the Vampire Diaries and the originals, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You look at Legacies for a minute, and it has one of the worst fucking main characters I think I've ever seen in any show. And it's so bad. It's so bad. When you watch like the first episode, and well, I mean, let's be honest, I didn't like Hope and the originals. But I was like, you know what? The originals is over, and I was so not happy about that. But I was like, you know what? Listen, that world is gonna continue. It's gonna continue in the form of Legacies. And by the way, what the fuck is even Legacies about? Because besides Hope, like, who are all these other like when I sit there and think about Legacies, I sit there thinking like, okay, the Legacies of the next generation of these famous other characters that came before them. Like Hope, you have the originals and Klaus, and you have Haley and stuff like that. But some of these other characters don't really come from like these amazing or crazy like kind of families. So I don't even understand what Legacies is even about. But yeah, you watch the first episode and you realize that the main character is actually just dog shit. And the person, for me, the person who I didn't think I was actually gonna like, which is Lizzie, because just like her personality a little bit, I actually wound up liking her the most. Up until the point where it gets so bad with some of these episodes where it's like the show isn't great, but when you're watching it without Hope, like when you're watching other scenes with other characters, it's fucking great. I mean, it's not like great, but it's great without her. And the minute it comes back to her, it's just like, fuck me. Because Hope, I feel like, has two settings. She's either angry and bitchy, or she's crying and sad. That's pretty much been her default settings for like what I think this is like the third season or something. This is how she operates. She's either really bitchy or really sad and angry, and every once in a blue moon she'll be happy about something. Every once in a while she'll be happy about something, and that's usually only because she's obsessed with Landon. It gets to a point where she gets so obsessed with Landon that she's willing to sacrifice half of the other people in the show, or she doesn't really care about anyone else in the show when she's all upset about, something that's going on with her and Landon. She is just a terrible fucking character. And it really pisses me off because one of my favorite characters is Klaus. So the fact that Klaus and Haley, who are just fucking amazing, can produce such a shit like fucking character. I don't understand that. I don't get it. But then you sit there and look at Legacies and you realize something. I realized this within the first couple episodes, is that their target audience, like they're going for a different target audience. You know, you watch the Vampire Diaries and the originals and stuff like that, and either somebody's heart is getting ripped out, somebody's neck is getting snapped, or there's some sort of crazy, amazing fight that's going on. And yeah, they throw in the drama, they throw in the romance and everything like that, but you know, they kept the other elements there. You know, like people died. Um, you go in this show, there's none of that. You know, no one gets their neck snapped or heart extraction or anything like that because it's all about shipping. That is what this entire fucking show and what they dedicate their shit for this new generation, this new fan base. It's all about the shipping. You know, when I was sitting there going on to CW, well, Instagram CW with like legacies and stuff like that, and people was there saying, "Oh well, the originals are so boring," you know. I like this because this, that, and the third, and you realize that these people are like fucking 15 and 14 years old. You're just like, yeah, okay, so they definitely went with a different fucking target audience, and you know, in this show, because in the beginning, like Vampire Diaries and the originals and stuff like that, you had a certain type of like beings and creatures and stuff like that. Like you had the heretics, you had the hunters, you had the travelers, witches, vampires, werewolves. Um, you know, every once in a while they'll sit there and try to come up with something new, but for the most part, it was pretty basic. I think in the originals they had like different breeds of like werewolves and stuff like that. But in this show, because they wanted to do something different, they decided to have their own monsters and stuff like that. Other creatures that were forgotten. The problem with this show is that, one, these fucking creatures suck. And I mean, really suck. 1 second. Perfect time for my background music to not work. But yeah, you know, the creatures suck. They're so stupid. And it gets to a point where in Legacies, I feel like the creatures, the fights and stuff like that, it doesn't even matter. You know, I mean, come on. In one episode, you had Santa Claus versus Krampus. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Is this a joke? Like, what is this? How do we go from Dahlia, Papatunde, um, the baddest of badass fucking huntresses, the one that looked like Elena on the Vampire Diaries, to fucking Cupid. Like, how did that happen? You know, what, like their standards? I feel like their standards, they just, they don't even fucking matter anymore. It's just nothing matters anymore. You know, I'm so knee deep in this show at this point that there's just no point of just like stop watching it. But I feel like, one, I wouldn't recommend this show to anyone. Um, I mean, come on, they have fucking like dance offs and musicals and shit. Which, by the way, that episode was trash. But I'm not gonna lie, there was one song that they had about the brothers, about Stefan and Damon and stuff like that was actually good. Every once in a blue moon, rarely every once in a blue moon, they would do something good. But I mean, come on, seriously, we go from I don't know, the originals fighting their aunt to a fucking High School Musical. Like, ugh. But also, again, I blame the CW. I blame the CW heavily because it's like they don't, like if you looked at, even if you look at some of their other shows, they don't really show like shows that are like violent and stuff like that. They really toned down on the fucking violence. I mean, hell, you look at the Flash, he doesn't even fight people anymore. He just talks to them. He just, like, that's literally it. He just sits there and and talks to his fucking villains now. Like, this is how low we have come, you know? And I blame the CW for this. Um, and it sucks. It sucks. This show, this is one of those shows where it's like, I was so excited. I was so looking forward to it because, again, the originals ended within 5 seasons. Way shorter than the Vampire Diaries. And I was just like, I mean, hell, it ended within 5 seasons. There was one season that took a long time. Like, the break in between one of those seasons was hella long. So at this point, I was like, yo, I need something else. Like you can't just end it right here, right? You got Legacies? Okay, cool. Whew, okay, all right. Well, we're gonna have some new people, but it's gonna be great. And then you watch it, and this show, in theory, at least is how I look at it, is supposed to be a cross between the X-Men and Harry Potter. And it's like they just took those two shows and they found a way to just crap on both of those and then put it together and call it fucking Legacies. And by the way, I cannot stress how much I cannot stand fucking Hope Michelson. Because I'm just going to sit there and point this out. She is the reason why her mom and her dad, and by extension, her uncle, is dead. It literally, she is the reason why her parents are dead. I mean, this chick is so self-centered that when they had to like split apart or whatever, and she was going out with her mother and stuff, she wanted to see her dad at any cost. Up until the point where she kidnapped her mother to force her dad to come back to New Orleans to sit there and help find her. And then when she was like, oh, well, it was just to sit there and get you to come back, and she tries to look for her mother is missing because she got taken by these really terrible fucking creatures. And they had to sit there and get her back. And, doing that, her mother had to practically sacrifice herself so her daughter can actually have a chance of living. And then she wound up dying. She had the audacity to sit there and blame Elijah, but Elijah was under, he lost his memory. But yet she still gave a bitchy ass attitude to him. I just... And then in the show, she tries to revise. She sits there and tries to revise history, even so far as Snit is saying, well, yeah, my dad was the original vampire. Bitch, you wouldn't even be alive if it wasn't for his werewolf side. So saying that he was the original vampire, not Snit is saying that he was a hybrid, is just, like, what are you doing? And this isn't the first time that she either tried to revise his history or turn in a way where it doesn't look bad on her. You got Landon, who is another character for the first couple of episodes, was completely fucking useless. And then they gave him powers. They finally gave him some sort of powers. But his powers were, well, pretty stupid because his only power was that he couldn't die. Literally, that was his power. His power was dying. And then later on he was able to fly and stuff like that, but he didn't really have any powers. And the thing about this show is that they really do kind of go out their way to sit there and find ways to emasculate men. Seriously, they really, really do. And they've done that in most of their CW shows, which is fucking Legends of Tomorrow. But, you sit there and you look at it, and one of these characters is literally a fucking fairy. And I'm just like, and you see him flying with these fucking wings, and I'm just like, if they would have put that in the Vampire Diaries in the second or third season, people would have laughed them out of the fucking waters and be like, yo, you gotta be joking, right? But in this show, because of this political climate, this shit is fucking allowed. And I don't really understand that. I really, oh my goodness, I really don't fucking understand that shit. And you got fucking fairies, you got, I think I missed most of these fucking characters. Most of the dumb shit that goes on in the show. But I highly recommend anyone to never fucking start watching this show. Because this show is just absolute fucking trash. And the main character is kind of the majority of the reason of why this show is so fucking unwatchable. Julia Pierce, I think that's her name, is just like, how do you sit there and direct half of this shit? I don't even know if she even directs this show anymore. Like, the Vampire Diaries in the originals was so fucking great. And granted, it was great because, well, to be honest, it really came off of Twilight. I know how some people feel about Twilight, you know, sparkles and all this other stuff like that, but within that show, they did actually have, I mean, within that universe, they did actually have some cool stuff that they definitely borrowed from, you know, like the Vampire Diaries and the originals definitely borrowed from. But you have two of these great, amazing fucking shows, and then your third series turns into absolute dog shit. I mean, I would sit down and tell people to watch Teen Wolf way before I tell people to watch Legacy. And by the way, Teen Wolf is a great fucking show. It is an amazing fucking show for a network that has went to absolute shit. It is an amazing show. I think this is what a time period when they actually cared about scripted TV shows before they just decided to give the cast members of the Jersey Shore more money to come back on, but that's whatever. The point is, Legacies is absolute dog shit, and I feel like I can go on and on and on about why it's so much dog shit compared to the originals. And you know, granted, I never expected Legacies to be better than the originals. The originals were so good that damn near all of the characters could have had their own spinoff. You know, Marcel, Rebecca, Klaus, Elijah, Cole. Cole was another great character, and I wish I could have saw more of him. But between all the other work he was there doing, and the fact that he was going to be having some sort of spinoff of Supernatural that didn't happen, but I felt like I still feel like him and Davina could have had their own spinoff, and it could have worked. But instead, they decided to give Hope Michelson a spinoff, and it's just like it's so fucking terrible. It's so terrible that even if the other cast members, not including whatever that kid that has the fairy powers is, the other characters aren't really bad. Like MG is actually pretty decent. I actually like MG. I actually like Kayla. But the point is, even when you actually have some good characters in the show is still dog shit. And the show will always be dog shit. And the only difference now, as opposed to before, like the newer season, is because of COVID, they don't really have that many characters. You know, the school isn't really that big. But other than that, the show is still absolute dog shit. It will always be dog shit. And I was out there doing reviews on Legacies, and I stopped because I felt like a lot of people really wasn't watching it, so I was like, alright, whatever. And then on top of that, I was doing other reviews, so it just like, it just wasn't gonna work. But yeah, but with that being said, I'm gonna go. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below about Legacies and why, like, do you like this show? Do you think Do you think it's actually better than the Vampire Diaries, than the originals? And if so, why? Or if you think the show is dog shit, like I do, why? And yeah, I still think that this show is dog shit, but at the same time, I'm the type of person that wants to go down with the ship. Like when I start watching something, even if it's really absolutely fucking terrible, and I didn't stop in the first 3 episodes, well, I'm gonna sit there and ride it until the damn wheels fall off. I think they're doing like Star Wars now. What the hell? Okay, I don't know what the hell that is. Now I think they're doing like a Star Wars parody. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on with this show? But yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna go. Thank you for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are about Legacies, and see you in the next video.